Welcome to the Formidable Over 40 podcast. I'm Sarah Pittendrigh, a mum, award-winning entrepreneur, cancer survivor, mentor and coach. This podcast is all about sharing inspiring stories and showing you that you're never too old and it's never too late to achieve your goals and design a life you love. On the episode today, I'm joined by Elaine Stroud. Elaine is the CEO at the Entrepreneurs Forum, a network for entrepreneurs in the Northeast. Elaine has been with the Entrepreneurs Forum for over 10 years and started her role as CEO in August 2021. Elaine's life has taken her all over the globe, with her story involving time studying in France, working for a charity in Namibia, and living in New Zealand. She's now back in her home of northeast of England, supporting entrepreneurs on their journeys and helping to put northeast England on the map as a hub for entrepreneurship. In this podcast, Elaine shares her experience and advice on everything from being a female leader to building entrepreneurial values. So, Elaine, welcome. Welcome to Formidable Over 40. Would you like to share with our listeners a little bit about yourself?
Well, thank you, Sarah, and thank you for inviting me onto the podcast today. I'm delighted to be here. So I'm Elaine, and I'm over 40. I'm 48, 50 next year.
And you don't look it at all.
It's good camera work. We'll go with the good filters. So as Sarah said, I'm a native Northeast girl, but spent most of my childhood growing up in the south of England in Hampshire in a very small town. So very naive as a young child. But since then, I've explored the world and I've spent time living overseas. Actually, it was nearly 11 years living in New Zealand. I spent 6 months living in Namibia, working on a charity project there and various other different bits and pieces. But 10 years ago, we moved back to the Northeast, which is now my home. And I've taken up the post as Chief Executive of the Entrepreneurs Forum, which I'm sure we're going to explore and discuss a little bit further. Other things about me, I love sport. I coach juniors and adults in triathlon. I run a local tri club and I compete in triathlon. I've represented Great Britain this year for the first time as well, which was absolutely fantastic. And off the back of that, I got to carry the torch for the Commonwealth Games, which is a real honour along the quayside earlier this year.
Absolutely fantastic. And you are a formidable over 40 woman. Absolutely. There's no doubt about it. But if I asked you to describe what a formidable over 40 woman means to you, what does being formidable over 40 mean?
I think that whole term formidable is a little bit scary, to be honest. I don't know what your other guests have said, but it makes you sound, to my mind, that gives me imposter syndrome as to what on earth am I doing here being formidable.
Goodness.
But I guess when you think about it, I think it's perhaps the confidence that you get with age and the confidence to perhaps, now I am in my later 40s, to push yourself and try new things and keep being curious and keep being energized by taking on new challenges that perhaps I wasn't able to do when I was in my 20s or 30s.
Yeah, absolutely. And if we talk about the younger Elaine and say we go back past your 20s and before then and say Elaine when she was 15, what was Elaine like at 15? What were your hopes and goals and ambitions at 15? What were you doing?
I was very, very naive. Let's put it in this context. I lived in a very small town with not much going on. So my life at 15 involved going to school, hanging out with friends. I can't really say that I had big dreams. I'd love to say at 15, I wanted to be a doctor or a chief executive. It wasn't like that for me. It was more, actually, I just want to get good grades and do what was expected of me. I think I just thought, I'll get my GCSEs, then go on to college and then go to uni. I don't think I really put much more thought into life beyond that.
Just enjoyed being young. Where now?
Enjoyed being young. I did sports. I hung out with friends. And those kind of things. I certainly wasn't going to nightclubs or clubs or anything like that at 15. It was quite a sheltered upbringing, to be honest. It's a bit boring, really, but I was quite happy.
Yeah, absolutely. And without social media, the pressure of social media now. I mean, you see the younger generation of today, and I don't know about you, but I was like you. I lived in rural Northumberland on a hilltop, and our highlight was playing on bikes, ponies, running around with dogs in a very carefree environment with no mobile phones, nothing to pitch ourselves against, for want of a better word, you know. And I think now it's a much more complicated world for the young ones. Do you?
I agree. I have a 16-year-old daughter, so I can relate to all of this and the pressures that she's under. And it's about, I guess, measuring your success. Now it's all comparative success, isn't it? It's how am I compared to everything else I can see? And you know, people post, particularly youngsters, they post all the good stuff.
That's it.
And you only see the good stuff. And how do you live up to that? I mean, I think it's really difficult for people today in social media to, I don't know how they cope. I don't think they are coping very well in lots of places.
I think that is the trouble, and it is very valid, because also you could post anything on social media. You could take a photograph of the Caribbean and you could put a photograph on social media this morning on Instagram, and you could tell everyone you were in the Caribbean. And, you know, so all right, you wouldn't necessarily have a selfie of yourself, but you know, they can say anything. They can say anything in doing it, and it's very impressionable, isn't it, for the young ones of today? And I do think that in some respects, it's a lot harder. I think it's a lot tougher than when we were maybe just scraping our knees and falling off our bikes.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's quite good in some ways, because I do have friends in lots of different countries around the world.
Yeah.
It does make my life a little bit easier, but I can just stay connected to people without, which maybe I would have lost touch.
Yes, there's some real pluses.
So that side is useful, but I do agree completely. I think it's that comparisons that you're all, you know, that's in human nature, isn't it? To compare how am I doing versus everybody else.
Yes.
And
so important to keep it real.
Confidence sometimes.
Yeah, I think it does. I think it certainly is impacting on confidence, and therefore it's important to encourage people to be authentic and to share and keep it real, isn't it? So from being the 15-year-old Elaine, what filled the gap until you became the CEO at the Forum then? What was Elaine doing then?
30 years. I carried on as normal in terms of I went off to university, and I think it was when I was at university I started thinking, actually, I fancy doing things a bit different to other people. So my first sort of little adventure was at uni, and I decided to do a gap year, which wasn't compulsory on my course, but I thought there was an opportunity to go and study at a university in the French Alps. And to be honest, I just thought a year skiing sounds really fun.
It was the skiing.
So I signed up for that. And before I knew it, I was on a flight to Geneva by myself, heading down to this university where I'd done A-level French, but not as part of my degree. So I had an absolutely wonderful gap year in France and met lots of people. And that, I guess, piqued my interest to go travelling. And then I did sort of little adventures, but then had a whole gap year after university where I backpacked around the world. And I've got an identical twin sister who lives in Sydney. But yes, and that's comparative. If you want to be compared to someone else, I spent my entire life being compared to someone else, which is quite interesting. And we led sort of parallel lives. Anyway, we went off backpacking, and like we said, we literally chucked our clothes in a bag, jumped on a flight to America, and then we travelled the world for a year. And we had such adventures, but it really opened your eye, and it gave me so much confidence that when we came back and I took my first graduate job in London, I suddenly looked around and thought, hang on a minute, I'm like 2 years older than everybody else who's left uni, because I've had all these experiences, and I felt so much more confident. And I think I did well in my early phases of my career because I had that extra confidence from kind of, I guess, not doing the normal thing and trying and exploring and doing other things. And that's left me always, I guess, seeking for a little bit of a different path.
Yeah. And I've got to ask, if you've got an identical twin sister, did you ever swap? Is there ever?
Yes, we did.
You've got to share. So Can you share?
There's two stories which I'll share with you. The first one is we did swap classes at school because we were in separate classes. And the teacher that we thought would never realise cottoned on straight away, and the teacher we thought would realise straight away didn't cotton on. But me and my sister always think, it's obvious to tell us apart. So we always felt a bit like, this is ridiculous, but our friends kind of thought it was funny.
Yeah.
But the funniest story I have was when we were living I'd moved to New Zealand. So this is our parallel life story. So I was working for PwC in New Zealand. My sister was working for PwC in Sydney. So we hadn't been there for that long. And then it was the sort of head partner from New Zealand who I knew was over, I didn't realise this, he was in the Sydney office doing something, and he walked along and he saw my sister, but he didn't know it was my twin sister. He thought it was me. So he walked along and he literally slapped her on the head and said, "What are you doing here?" At which point my sister's like, "Who is this crazy man hitting me?" And the partner I knew was walking with the head of the Sydney practice. He was like, "How do you know Carol?" And he was like, "Carol? Carol?
Who's
Carol?
Carol?
Who is this woman?" So I thought that was quite
That is
funny.
really funny. Oh,
But we
good.
don't get mistaken for one another now that we live on other sides of the planet.
Yes.
She stayed in Sydney at the time we moved back to England
Right.
10 years ago.
Oh, fantastic. Oh, I bet that was such fun. So now you're at the forum, okay? We've got Elaine, CEO at the Entrepreneurs Forum. What does a typical day look like for you?
I thought you might ask me this, and it's really difficult to answer because my days are so unbelievably varied.
Yeah.
And typically, I would get up super early in the morning and I do my exercise before work because if I don't put it in before 7 o'clock in the morning, it's not going to happen.
Doesn't get done. Mm.
So do that, get the kids ready, drop them off at school, head into the office. We usually have a team meeting in the morning, and that's because my team is remote. So some people are working from home, some in the office. And we started this in COVID and having a daily catch up. And it's more like that chat that you would have around the water cooler or making a coffee.
Yeah.
I just need to keep in touch with people and check what they're up to. So it's quite social, but we talk about what's going on. And then we get stuck into the day. And it might be, so yesterday I was off running an event all afternoon, which was about defining your success. So we had a discussion group talking about, well, what is success and how do you know if you're winning and those kind of things.
Yeah,
which is great. Sometimes I'm out meeting, this morning I was out meeting one of our corporate partners, talking about how we can work together more effectively to benefit them and us. And often it's just meeting with entrepreneurs and members and understanding their priorities and what they want to do with their businesses.
Yeah, absolutely. And that rolls on really well because my next question is about how does the Entrepreneurs Forum help entrepreneurs in the Northeast? I know how you were a huge help to me when I first founded my business in 2008. You ran a fantastic campaign. I always mix it up, but I think it was something like "If we can, you can," and it was wonderful where startups were supported by more senior entrepreneurs. I was offered mentoring. I always remember Chris Baxter, who was a senior entrepreneur in the forum, offered me time and I wanted to franchise my business. Winning awards with you guys, created exceptional PR exposure, but the wealth of knowledge that's within the forum in itself, to be able to reach out and use it's the most wonderful resource to have. And so speaking as an entrepreneur who is a member and who's utilized you very much in the past, more so definitely in my startup days, which you would expect because as we get on and evolve and our businesses grow, but how would you say, speaking today as the forum, how is it really helping? What is it that you're offering to entrepreneurs in the Northeast?
Yeah, that's a great question. What we do is we do the inspiration piece.
Yeah.
So we inspire you. So by that, I mean, we give you the energy and the resilience to keep going.
Yes.
So we're not about doing, which is what you need.
Yeah,
if you're running a business, you just need to check in and get that boost of inspiration. And that might come from the mentoring program. So that's connecting less experienced entrepreneurs with more experienced entrepreneurs. And we do that on a very sort of tailored, specific basis. So it might be someone at a crossroads looking, I just can't quite push my business to the next level. We'll have a conversation with this person who's already broken through that. And that's probably what happened to you. And that will really help you and inspire you just to keep going and keep going. So lots of it's about inspiration. And that is often through storytelling, which I think is amazingly powerful.
Yeah.
So come and listen to other entrepreneurs from the Northeast, but also from around the world, because we bring people in from all over. Come and listen to their stories. And it's not just talking about the end point.
That's it.
So the end point is usually well recorded. We want to hear about the journey.
That's exactly
we want to hear about the days that you were really struggling.
The nitty-gritty.
And that's going to give you that bit of confidence to go away and say, actually, I can do this.
Yes.
And that campaign was called "If We Can, You Can."
Yes.
So it's saying, if we can do this, and of course you can do that. You just need this boost of inspiration and energy to get on and do it.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. And in terms of your role, I'm sure it's hugely varied. What is your most favourite part of being a CEO of the forum?
I think seeing the members benefit from what we do.
Yeah.
So satisfying when you hear a story when someone says, I met so-and-so at one of your events, or I heard this bit and that changed my life and that changed my business. And because of that, I've gone on to do X or Y.
Yes.
And that just makes me feel proud
Yeah.
to be in this role and to be helping in that way.
A real buzz moment, isn't it? To see how, people, as you say, are benefiting from this wonderful service that you're all offering. And in terms of the role and it evolving and growing and the forum evolving and growing, what are the goals? What is the future? What's sort of on the radar for growth, or what are you hoping to do next with the forum, and in your role?
Well, I think we've got loads of untapped potential at the moment, especially coming out of COVID and all the challenges that we have now with the cost of living. And ultimately, the Northeast is always bottom of every leaderboard. It doesn't seem to matter what leaderboard it is. The Northeast is nationally bottom. And I would like to hope, our ultimate vision is for the Northeast to be the best place in the UK to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And that's going to take some work. But we've got opportunities. I don't know if you're aware, Sarah, but I can see it literally from where I'm sitting. The new Sage International Conference Centre is being built. So there's this brand new state-of-the-art conference centre and arena, which is being built right outside where I'm sitting,
Phenomenal.
Which will open in 2025.
Wow.
We've got goals of putting on the best conference for entrepreneurs in the whole of the country at this new centre. I mean, that's 2 years away and it will take a lot of work.
Yeah.
But there's some brilliant examples of fantastic gatherings of entrepreneurial brains and minds, which make a difference across the world. And I think if we could replicate that and do that here in Gateshead, which is where the centre will be, that could be incredible.
And you can see the passion and the enthuse that you've got for that, and if any of my listeners are actually going to be watching on YouTube, you can see how animated and passionate you are. And that's what you need to be as a leader, because that's, being that in that position, you've got to have that passion and that energy and that belief. And you can see that you absolutely exude that, Elaine. So what would you say that, well, you've more or less tapped on it there, but I was going to say, what really motivates you? So not just in work, but, you do those iron challenges and you've got so much going on, and you've got a busy full on life, haven't you, with outside and in work. What is it that motivates you and it keeps you inspired?
I think I'm motivated by trying to be, it sounds a bit cliche, but the best version of me that I can be.
Yes.
So I like challenges that kind of push me and then push me a little bit more.
Yes.
And a little bit more, which I guess is why I've done endurance events. I've done a couple of iron distance triathlons now. And it's not about where I finish in the race or whatever. I think if I just put my goal on completing it, completing to me isn't enough. It's completing it and having gone through the journey to know that when I've completed that race, I've done it to the best of my ability on that day.
Yeah.
And so to me, I have all these little milestones on the way, like I have to complete the training and I know I need to be up at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock or whatever it is. But I'm motivated by saying, well, actually, I'm going to really love the endorphins at the end of this, but I'll only get those if I know I've put the work into
and
it.
push
so
yourself
it's about
through.
being the best version of me.
Yeah.
And I like that with other people, and that's why I like coaching. I want to see the kids that I coach on Sundays.
Yeah. Tell us more about them. Tell us more about those, because it's a fantastic thing that you do. Share with us about the coaching that you do with the young ones.
Yeah, so I set up a club for triathlon for kids. This is for 8 to, I think the oldest kids we have are about 14 or 15. So I set up the club in October 2019, which was probably in hindsight not the best timing. So we got this club up and running, and it's quite a lot of work you have a lot of responsibilities in setting up a sports club. You need to have all the welfare in place and all the logistics. So we worked with British Triathlon to get the accreditations we needed and all the coaches qualified. And now we coach every Sunday afternoon for 2 hours, kids in cycling, swimming, running. This year we ran an event in our local town for kids. We had 100 kids come one Sunday morning to do a triathlon, which is a swim followed by a run.
Right.
They got their medals and we gave them each an ice cream when they finished. But it's so exciting to see the kids happy. And you think these kids on a Sunday afternoon would be sat at home, probably on their Xboxes or just watching TV or something like that. And we get them outside running enjoying themselves and enjoying sports.
The
And I
endorphins,
think
getting the
that's,
happy endorphins going as well. Yeah. Helps to
yeah,
get
and we
out
love
the
it
house. Yeah.
coaching them. It's so much fun.
Yeah. Another
You know,
thing of getting so
it's
much
giving
out
your
of
time
it.
back.
Yeah. Paying it forward, isn't it? And just getting it and setting those kids up. Because that's you're giving them a great start, providing that facility. Because like you say, what else would they potentially be doing? There's so much. It's too easy, isn't it, to be sat on social media or be gaming.
Yeah, and I have that issue with my son, trying to get him to stop doing that, as I think most parents do struggle with. Actually, you'd love your kids to be out doing more things, but it's really hard. Those games are really addictive and they love them. And I find it really difficult to encourage my son to pick up better habits. I don't know that it's bad, but actually to manage his time better.
Yes. So you, by nature, are supporting a lot of people. You're supporting the kids, you're supporting your family, you're supporting the forum members. What about you? Have you got any support networks to help you? Because you've got a lot going on. Who do you go to for for motivation and to sort of fuel your tank, for want of a better word?
I think family. My husband supports me a lot. He's the one that pushes me to say, actually, you can do this. So if I'm sort of sitting on the fence thinking, I'm not sure if I'm capable of doing this, he's like, just go, give it a go. You can do that. Start a bit faster than you intended. See how it goes. So he's a good source, a good rock for me. But then friends as well. I've got a really good group of friends, people I've met through my triathlon club. One girl who's a brilliant lady, Emma, that I train with. We're out doing long distance runs and cycles, and I think we sort of like cancel each other into what we're doing with our lives. So friends and family mainly.
Yeah, it's so important, isn't it, when you've got so much going on and you've got such responsibility, to have the importance of having good people around you. With a previous guest, we were just talking about the importance of your network and being surrounded by radiators and not drains, because you do need to keep pushing forward. Takes a lot of energy. It takes a lot of energy, doesn't it? So you don't want to be your batteries being drained. You need as many people as you can to help you power up, don't you?
It's hard work staying energized the whole time, and my job is to energize other people. So
exactly.
I need those support network for me. I do have a fantastic group of people on our board for the Entrepreneurs Forum, and some of those people are brilliant for me, because I know I can pick up the phone and have a chat with them if I need to, or just need to sound something out, and they'll give me that sort of like boost of confidence to take things to the next level as well.
Yeah, and that's so important. And when we talk about sort of confidence and self-limiting beliefs and so forth, would you say that you've suffered from self-limiting beliefs in your career or during your time?
Oh, definitely. I don't know anyone who hasn't. I think they're lying if they say they haven't. Surely, I think virtually anything that I do that's new, I start off like at the back of my head thinking, oh, I wouldn't mind doing that. I then ponder it myself, and then you've got to kind of communicate it to someone else.
Yes.
And then I'm doing that to kind of look for reassurance. But I don't think I've tried anything new without being really uncertain as to whether I can do it. Because who wants to put themselves forward to fail?
Yeah.
And I think I've learned that you have to be a bit less black and white about what your goal is.
Yeah.
Because if you just have, I'm going to do X, then it's either I'll fail or I'll pass. If you talk about what you're going to do in the journey, then you're satisfied with some of the things that you do along that way.
Yes.
And then the end result perhaps isn't as black or white as just saying I'll either pass it or I won't pass it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Now, working in the forum, you come across many entrepreneurs, all very different, from all different walks of life, and you'll have heard so many inspiring stories and you'll have met so many inspiring people. The first question I would ask you is, what do you think makes an entrepreneur? What is it? What is he like? Someone could be listening to this and saying, well, what even is an entrepreneur? What is an entrepreneur to you, Elaine?
I think sometimes it's the mindset.
Yeah.
So everybody's capable. Well, I don't know. Is everybody capable of being an entrepreneur? Probably not. Some people are just willing to take that risk. And it is about your appetite to risk, because it's highly stressful. as you know, and
Yes.
not without risk, as you also know. But some people love that, and
Yeah.
they get the endorphins from doing that.
Yeah.
But it's risky to say I'm going to give up my well-paid or not well-paid, my actual paid regular income
Paid.
and start something myself, which may or may not have regular income.
Yes.
And some people are willing to do that. So I think it's mindset and a bit of grit determination.
Yeah.
You can sense something that people who are in our membership, they've got that sort of ambitious gene.
Yes.
To have a go.
Yeah, absolutely. And in the forum, there are some phenomenal entrepreneurs. Are there any, without mentioning names, or if you can mention names, any particular success stories that really stand out to you from the forum, from the entrepreneurial journey of some of your members?
Oh yeah, loads. I mean, there's some big names of people that you'll have heard of, like, say, for example, Sarah Davies.
Yes.
So Sarah, who's on, well known, her TV role, Strictly, Dragon's Den, when she joined the forum, which was probably 15 years ago, maybe slightly longer, she's just a small little crafting business. And she's been mentored by people through the forum, attended various different events. And, she's got an incredible business now. So that stands out. But then there's other people like, I'm naming names now, but I'm sure they won't mind. Brian Palmer, now he's the owner of Tharsis, so completely different sector. They make robots, and they've evolved over the years, and he's taken mentoring and support throughout probably the 20 years he's been a member, and I think they're approaching 100 million this year in terms of turnover. So phenomenal success story for the Northeast.
Yeah.
But there's lots like that, and actually there's lots of, they're the big names that you've heard of.
Yeah.
But there's lots of companies which go under the radar that are doing fantastic things. And what I think is good at the moment is, I had a look recently, and now 1/3 of our members are millennials.
Right.
And I was like, no way. I thought most of the members would be a bit older than that.
Yeah.
But so people born in the 80s. So these are entrepreneurs who are in their late 20s and 30s now with amazing businesses, and that's the likes of Chloe Clover from Wonder Films, Salma Teaside, she's incredible. Look her up if you don't know. Kimberly Catton, so she's from West Barnpike, she does the eyebrow.
Yeah, I was with her just the other day. Fantastic, wonderful
fantastic
inspiration.
Business.
Yeah.
And these are inspiring women and leaders who are in their early 30s doing amazing. I look back now and think, wow, there was no way I was even close to doing that at that age, so good on them.
They are phenomenal. And working with these inspirational people, because you're meeting people from all different walks of life every day, really, in your role. Is there any key takeaways that you've taken from them that have helped you hone your role and you as a CEO?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's given me confidence just to do it. And I think for quite a few years, I maybe sat in the background and realizing these are not ordinary because they're exceptional people, but it is people from all walks of life, and people from anywhere from a standing start can be successful in their own right.
Yes.
And if they can be successful, then why can't someone like me take on this role and help them in my own little way? So I think it's more taking confidence and snippets of advice. So one thing I've learned from the entrepreneurs is they're really curious. And I think I probably failed in my 20s and 30s of being curious, because I just followed what was expected and didn't explore outside that. Whereas the entrepreneurs have said, no, you should read these books, you should listen to these podcasts. And I've really started to do that and to sort of open my mind to new ideas. And I'm enjoying that.
It's flexibility, isn't it, as you say, and having that open growth mindset rather than the fixed mindset of, no, I better not do that, or maybe I shouldn't, and maybe I couldn't. And it's like, hang on a minute, we're just going to put that stake in the ground and we're going to have a go, we're going to have a go. And I think that's, it's, and I think mindset, as you say, is absolutely key. I
can't remember which member said this to me, but it really resonated. And I wish I could remember who said it to me because it stuck. But they said the best way to motivate yourself is to start.
Yes.
And I said, actually, that's true. And there's times, when you think, I can't really do that doesn't interest me.
Yeah.
Actually, as soon as you start getting into it, then you're like, throw yourself into it and you can see where it might take you. So now I say to people, if you're sitting on the fence or thinking about doing something, just start it and then see where it takes you.
Well, you'll know that probably from running and cycling. It'll be the same, won't it? Some days you probably think, oh, I just can't be bothered. And then when you get out there, it's like, oh, I'm so glad I did.
Yeah, there's one of our members, a guy called Pete Wilkinson. He said to me, sometimes he wrote a book called Iron Man Attitude.
Right.
And he'd done Ironman. So this is way before I'd even contemplated or knew what an Ironman was. And he said, sometimes you're lying in bed in the morning and the alarm goes off and all you can hear is the rain pounding on your window.
Yeah.
You feel the wind and you think, I'm never going to get out. But once you open the door, it's just a gentle mist.
Yes.
And actually, it's okay. And you go and do your run and you love it.
And you come back.
So
yeah.
Now, and that really resonated with me. And now every time when my alarm goes at ridiculous o'clock, as it does, and I could feel this horrendous weather, I just think of that and I was like, I'm going to get out there.
Get out and
you
do
never
it.
actually have a bad run.
No.
You always feel better for going
Absolutely not that I'm anywhere like you. I decided in my 50s I was going to try and do a couch to 5k. I did succeed. I did do that 5k, but now I'm afraid I think 3 miles is as far as I ever get, literally 3. I'm sure I probably could do more. I could, but it's like you, isn't it? Saying that, I it's about your mindset. And if I could be bothered, put it this way, if I wanted to do it, I know I would. So I don't think running, I'll never be any competition for you. That's all I'm going to say, Elaine. You don't ever need to lose any sleep on me coming to attack you on any of those iron competitions. It ain't going to happen. So in terms of those competitions, Elaine, what have you got up? Anything next? Anything in the pipeline?
Well, I've just qualified this year to be part of the British team again to compete in the World Championships for Olympic distance next year, which takes place in Spain, but I don't know exactly where or when. So watch this space on that one.
Yeah. Oh, that's fantastic. So you've got an incredibly busy life and a family. The thing that many of my CEOs say to me is, it's the juggle. We've just got so much on and, trying to just find time for me and my growth thinking, my big picture thinking. It's nearly impossible. That's the first thing that I hear. How do you find that balance, because obviously you find time for doing your competitions and your passion and your family and so forth. What words of wisdom, advice can you share to help anybody who says, God, I'm just struggling with a juggle?
Well, I'm going to be listening to all your other episodes to see what everybody else answers to this question, because I think that's the holy grail, isn't it? Getting that balance.
Yeah.
But I think I've realised there's going to be times in my life that I get the balance right, but the majority of the times you're going to be juggling.
Yeah.
But I'm okay with that as long as you don't drop the same ball all the time.
Yeah.
So I think there's times when I'm training and I've got to put my training first.
Yeah.
But there's times when you realise actually, so next year I'm not going to do an iron distance triathlon because I decided, even though I love it and I absolutely want to do it, I need to prioritise family next year.
Yes.
And they need more time. So it's just taking some decisions and saying, well, at different times in my life, I've got to find time. And my children are now 16 and 14, but it doesn't really mean that they need you any less.
No.
They actually need quite a bit of your time still. And I need to find a bit more time for them and my husband and all of that.
Yeah.
But I think probably most people say that you don't want to drop any of those balls. You've got to keep them going. But someone said to me recently, think of those balls as made of different materials. So which ones of those balls are glass?
Yes.
And you don't want to drop the glass balls, but there's some balls in there that might be made of rubber and they're okay to drop once in a while.
That's fantastic.
That's
a wonderful analogy, isn't it?
Analogy, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. Because that glass and rubber, it is. I'm going to remember that. I'm going to use that with my clients. I don't know who that is.
One of our members who runs a consultancy business sent me an article about it.
I like that.
That's good.
Yeah, definitely.
That's good. I'll keep that.
Yes, I will be making a note. I love that. An interesting thing is about being able to say no, and I think when we're younger, we tend, you may not have, but I know that I used to say yes to everything because I didn't want to miss an opportunity. And before you know it, you're swamped. How do you find the ability to say no? Has it got easier as you've got, got older so that you can prioritize your life?
Yeah, I think I was the same as you. When I was younger, I said yes to everything. And there was one point when I was pregnant with my second child where my husband was like, you are doing far too much. And he said to me, if you don't go in and tell your boss that you have to do these things, not do these things, I'm ringing him. And I'm ringing him at 11 o'clock this morning.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I better go in and ask for help.
Yes.
But that was a case of just saying yes and trying, because you try, don't you, and be perfect at everything.
Yeah.
And I think what I've learned, and more recently I'm still juggling with this, is to actually say, well, what's important? What is my purpose? What am I trying to achieve here?
Yes.
And you do have to say no to quite a lot of things, because if you do overcommit, I've been there, and it doesn't work, and it's stressful, and it never ends pretty, does it?
No.
So I think I'm getting better at being more selective.
Yeah, and you're right. It's very easy to take on everything, isn't it? You know, and it's setting those boundaries and having that ability to say no. And I do think it definitely gets easier as we get older. Definitely.
I think so. It's not easy though, is it? Because they're usually good things.
Yes.
So you think, oh, I'd quite like to do that.
Yeah.
That sounds good.
I know.
But actually, you can't do everything all at the same time, at least.
No, you can't. We're kind of coming to the end of the podcast now, and it's been absolutely fascinating. I love to hear about everything you're up to, because you do live such a. I mean, you at the beginning of the podcast. Oh, you said something like, "Oh, I don't know if formidable. If was it something like, I don't know if I live up to formidable." I mean, my word, I'm sure all the listeners who've just enjoyed your interview would think you very much are a formidable over 40 woman. And what would you say to any listeners who are sat at midlife and they're thinking, do you know what? All I've done. And they've done it willingly, you know, but they've given everything to the career, to the families, and they might just be thinking, I'm feeling a little bit lost. You know, I don't know what the next decade has for me. I'm stuck at a crossroads. What would you say? What would be your words of wisdom to help them get unstuck and prioritize themselves?
Well, I think there's a couple of things that I would say. One is, it's okay to be at the crossroads. And that was a really good piece of advice I got before I needed that advice. So in my early 30s, I had a really good mentor who said to me, there's times in your life where you're climbing and growing and learning. Yeah. And there's times in life where you're going parallel and you're not going forwards and not going backwards. But that is actually really important, to have those periods where you're flat. Yes. Because then you can have the energy to grow again. Yeah. And I certainly had periods where I was flat, and it was only looking back I thought that advice was really useful to say, having those times where you're not developing is okay as well. That's like your rest day in training. Yeah. Rest days are as important as growth days. But then if you get to the point where you say, well, I'm at the end of my rest, I've been resting for too long.
I've been resting for the last 10 years. What am I going to do now?
Then I guess, I'm not saying go and do an Ironman, but go and just try something, talk to your friends if there's some hobby that they have or something that they do that maybe would just bring you into a different circle of friends or something new that you can try. And don't necessarily think, oh, right, I'm going to go and climb Everest, because you probably won't. Yes. And then you're just setting yourself up for failure. Yeah. But maybe you say, oh, I'd really like to get into mountaineering. I'd like to climb Everest one day. So therefore this year I'm going to climb Ben Nevis. Yeah. Or something that you can manage. Yes. And then you have little goals along the way. So try not to make your next step put too much pressure on yourself to move forwards. Move forwards at a sensible pace, particularly if you've been at that crossroads for quite a long time. A little step in the right direction might be all you need just to kickstart the next day.
Absolutely. And I think it's breaking the pattern. It's the habitual pattern that you can find yourself in, and it's finding that little chink of light to escape the pattern. And I think what you said is very, very valid, and it's something that I do in my mentor and my clients. It's about, have your ambitious goal. I think it's really important to have your ambitious goal if you have ambition and you want an ambitious goal, but to pin it and not just focus on that. It's about rolling the goal down the hill to you. So by having what you said there, small little actionable chunks that you can tick off and you can actually measure progress, you can see yourself progressing. Those little wins are real motivators, aren't they?
Yeah, completely. It's like saying, well, I want to do a marathon, but first do that couch to 5K.
Yeah, exactly.
Complete that and celebrate that.
Yeah.
Then do a park run, and it might take you 5 years
Yeah.
before you're ready, and that's fine.
Yes.
But just do it in stages, and stages are at the pace that you're comfortable with.
Yeah, absolutely wonderful advice. I knew this would be a joy. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on the Formidable Over 40 podcast, Elaine. Thank you so very much. For anybody who would like to find out more about the Entrepreneurs Forum, who might like to join or find out about the events and the membership, where can they get further details, Elaine?
All right. Well, the best place to go to is our website, which is entrepreneursforum.net, or you can look me up on LinkedIn, just Elaine Stroud, Entrepreneurs Forum, and follow me or send me a message through that platform, and let's open a conversation.
Absolutely fantastic. So thank you everyone for listening to the Formidable Over 40 podcast, and thank you so much, Elaine, for joining us and sharing all of your wonderful advice. You can find out more information about the things that we've discussed on this episode in the show notes. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss out on future episodes, and please do share this podcast with anyone you think will enjoy or needs to hear it.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you very much, Elaine.